Hi, my name is Alan Court. I am the owner of the Kiddywinkles Early Childcare Group in New Zealand. Welcome to our podcast where we have interviewed celebrities, including Hollywood A-lister Vince Vaughn, one of New Zealand's pop personalities on TV, and one of our favourites, Susie Cato. And today we have another celebrity who is known throughout New Zealand, throughout the width and breadth of New Zealand, with lots and lots of little kiddies on how to keep children safe. A very, very interesting topic, and one that a lot of our parents are certainly keen to find out about. Our guest speaker today is Senior Constable Bryan Ward, who has a QSM, and a QSM is a Queen's Service Medal for services to the community. So we're very honoured to have him. He has been on television, he has podcasts, Facebook, and all sorts of things right through the country. Normally has his faithful friend Bobby the dog with us, but Bobby can't be available today. A very warm welcome to you today, Bryan.
Thanks, Alan. Thank you very much for the invite to appear on your podcast. I'm an esteemed company. Vince Vaughn is one of my favourite actors, and I absolutely love his current TV show, Bad Monkey. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, some of those, it's really interesting. Whilst we're parents or adults working with children, the whole journey of a child from birth right through primary school, they need that support, and there's a lot of the support comes through knowledge, and whether you're an A-lister actor or whether you're a TV personality or whether you are a parent employed doing their daily jobs, there's lots we need to learn about. Bryan,
Yes,
tell us a little bit about the history of you. You've been in the police force for so long.
Yeah.
Without aging you.
No, that's all good. So actually yesterday I celebrated my 28th year in the New Zealand Police. I joined in 1996. Yeah. I was posted out to Manurewa. That was my very first station there. And I policed there for probably about 3 or 4 years on the front line, and then went to Manukau, where we had the emergency response units. I then went to Otahu, I'm going to say early 2000s, where I was the community constable in Otahu. And then I went from there on a journey with, as you mentioned, the TV show Brian and Bobby. So I've toured every single primary school in New Zealand, apart from the ones on Stewart Island, but I have done the ones on the Chatham Island. And then I came back up to where I am currently stationed in the Rodney district, did 3 or 4 years on the front line, back up in the Rodney district, and now I'm a community officer in the Waitemata Rodney district.
That's fantastic. Got a huge amount of experience. And what got you into the child safety, because it takes quite a lot to think about what's the best thing to keep young children safe as opposed to adults. What pulled you into this? And then you obviously came up with your idea of Bobby, your faithful friend.
Yeah. Well, it's a journey in reverse, because before I joined the police, I actually trained to be a teacher aide at Auckland College of Education a long, long time ago now. But in that sort of last couple of weeks while I was at Teachers College, we had an opportunity to explore another career that we maybe have thought about. I got to ride night shift with the police. So I only lasted 2 days before I thought, actually, you know what, I'd much rather be a police officer. So I went that way. So it's funny how it's gone full circle. But I actually got involved with youth when I started off as the community constable in Otahu, because I realised that schools, play centres, they basically are the cornerstones of our community. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're the highest ranking police officer or a street sweeper or the Prime Minister or a gang member. Everybody loves their kids and everybody wants the best for their kids. So it's a no-brainer, obviously. So then as I was going around the schools in South Auckland, I had a number of people say to me, whatever happened to Constable Keith and Sniff? Which I thought was quite interesting at the time. Nobody, and this is the thing that really struck a chord with me, nobody actually asked me what's happened to Commissioner sort of Robinson. Yeah. So I thought, wow, look at Keith Doolin and Sniff, they made a huge impact. And I don't think people actually realise Keith and Sniff actually weren't on TV that long. They're only on for about 2 to 3 minutes every Saturday morning on What Now? So then, as chance had it, because I was doing a lot of stuff at the Children's Hospital at Middlemore, I bumped into Susie Cato and went, Keith and Sniff, it'd be great if we could update that for the police. And she said, well, the reason you haven't is because nobody wants to. And at the time, I joined to become a hard-boiled detective. I wanted to solve crimes and everything else. And then a little bit of a trial down in the Waikato with a very, very, I'm going to say, very simple Bobby. And it took off. And we had, 76 TV shows, countless radio shows. We're still appearing on Susie and Friends every weekend. A #1 hit song. We're a charted higher than Ed Sheeran, which I'm very proud of. So it's just been an absolute blast. It is completely not what I joined the police for, but it's been one heck of a ride. And I've got to meet so many great New Zealanders who are interested about their kids' safety, which, if we're honest, we all are interested in kids' safety. That's why we do the role that we do.
That's really commendable. And we've got, if you ask a little child what job they'd like when they're older, a lot of them say they want to be a policeman. And in fact, we've got a little 3-year-old at one of our centres, and for the last month, he has come into the centre dressed as a policeman. So it's wonderful how the police are put on this pedestal, if you like, as an aspirational type career, which I think is really good. How do you then get this feeling of, for a child to move from having an aspiration to having the confidence to approach a policeman? Because a policeman, we don't want them to be a scary thing. You want them to be very approachable. What is your thoughts on how that happens with young children?
Well, it's coming back in vogue now because we've got police officers back on the beat in the street, which makes communication a lot easier. And I will very often say to the kids as we're visiting schools and play centres, if you see a police officer, make sure you go up to them and give them a smile or a fist bump, because we're human. It's not a Superman suit. We love to receive that feedback as well. So I think it's a lot of that drive is from TV shows. It always makes me laugh, particularly, and I bet you that 3-year-old is a huge Paw Patrol fan, probably.
Yes, he is.
But yeah, there you go. Yeah. But it really surprises me the number of adults that think that all police officers have a police dog. No, they don't. And we always have the fluffy police dog puppies come and visit in our offices. They haven't visited me once in 28 years, I hate to say, Alan. But it's that thing of being friendly, it's being recognisable, and it's also picking your right time as well. If you see a police officer and you are out with your kids, make sure that you do go up to them and say, hi, this is a police officer. This is somebody that can help you. Maybe if you're lost and mummy needs to find you or you see them and that type of stuff. The thing that really gets my goat, I should say, is when parents say, here comes the police officer, they've come to take you away, or see, I told you, if you didn't behave, the police officer would come and take you away, which I have to say, I think is, and I can say this as a dad, is a poor excuse for bad parenting. If your child gets lost, then what is going to happen is if we are looking for them and they see police officers, chances are your child's probably going to run away because they're going to think that we're going to take them away, and we're not. So it's really, really good to just encourage that relationship between your kids and all first responders. Like I always say to the kids, can't find a police officer, find a firefighter, find an ambulance officer. So I think that's something that we should actively encourage, especially if you're a parent and you see a first responder out in the community. Go over and say hi. If we've got the time, we'll show you the car and turn the lights on and everything else. And that is probably fanning those flames for that 3-year-old to become a recruit in about 17 years' time.
Oh, well, that's, I think that the police do such a wonderful job, and they're just a critical part of society in New Zealand, and it's so good that more resources have been put into the police. And for children to actually understand, as you said, that police are human, and you can feel confident to approach them.
Mm-hmm.
When I think back to when I was young, which is some time ago, after school we used to run across to our friend's place and play to all hours, and on the weekends we would disappear for hours on end and come back when it was time to eat. Now parents need to be much more conscious of where their children are. They're not in a closed area such as a school or a childcare centre where they're protected. What is your advice to parents on keeping track of their children when they're not actually in these controlled environments?
So I'm much like you. I came from the era of when the street lights come on, make sure you're home for dinner. So yes, I fully understand where you're coming from. I guess my big advice would be, let your children actually have a bit of freedom. We see very often when I'm going around the schools, kids that don't have an awful lot of self-confidence. They certainly don't have an awful lot of resilience. And it's because they've either got a helicopter or what we call a bulldozer parent who is making sure that they don't climb the tree or making sure that everything's safe. And unfortunately, you just can't do that all the time. Accidents happen, unfortunately. So I guess my big advice would be just give your kids a little bit of freedom, but make sure that you are always there or thereabouts in the background, so that if something does go wrong, you can just bolster their confidence a little bit and push them out a little bit further. For instance, when we go to playgrounds, and we'll see parents on playgrounds when we're doing patrols, it's staggering. It really staggers me the number of parents that we'll see on cell phones, not paying any attention to what their kids are actually doing on a playground, which is horrifying. But, encourage your kids to climb, encourage your kids to do things that they wouldn't do. So they gain confidence and they gain resilience, because that just can't be undervalued, especially in today's society.
And I think if they give their children a little bit of rope to go out and do that, but as you say, they are watching them, they're not sitting on their cell phone absent-mindedly doing their own thing, because it's so important that the children can experience things but also have a parent in the background. Another thing that I've found, and I am really pleased that the speed limit around schools has gone down to 40 kilometres. Driving past schools, I often see young children who clearly don't know they're not streetwise.
No.
They don't have a fear of danger at that age, and they can dart out across the road in front of a car. Now, there must be some key things that children need to learn, whether it's holding a hand of an adult, whether it's walking across a pedestrian crossing. What sort of advice do you have for parents on getting your child to be streetwise, and streetwise, even primary age children I see going across the road by themselves? So they need to have some skills and some resource to work on.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think lots of parents don't realise that kids can't judge speed until they actually get to about the age of 10 or 11. So they will very often see cars coming down a road and think, oh, I can make that. I guess the big thing with road safety is be a role model, not an excuse for the parents. And I say that because we've all done it, that thing of, oh, the crossing's 30 metres up the road, let's just cross here. Not good enough. We're in the car park, and instead of doing things like, okay, you can get out of the car, but put your hand on the car and wait until mummy or daddy comes around and gets you. Holding kids' hands when they're in the car park. All those types of things just reinforce the message. Sure, there's no problems with teaching your kids stop, look, and listen, which is something that we do, the curb drill, when we're out in primary schools. But until they're sort of round about maybe 7 or 8, and even older for some kids, and again, parents can judge us, it's just that thing of being close by so that if something does happen or you need to make a judgment call, there's no dramas whatsoever. But for younger kids, especially the ones that we're dealing with play sensors and everything else, a hand must be held. You do have to show good road sense yourself. So cross at the lights, cross at the crossing, and explain to the kids why you're looking left and right, regardless of the fact that you're on a crossing. And as we always say, and I just made that fatal mistake of, don't teach the kids left and right, just say 3 good looks. And then that's fine. Because there's still, as we both know, there's many adults who don't know the left or right without going like this. So yeah.
No, sound advice. Another thing that childcare centres throughout New Zealand are very good at, and that is performing particular drills. It's part of what we do, part of our policies, whether we have a fire drill, whether we have lockdown drill, whether we have earthquake drill. In a controlled environment, the children know what to do. However, when you're at home and you don't have the adults around, you don't have the secure safety of adults around you all the time, what's your advice for children in terms of what they should be learning if there is a break-in or if there is a fire or if there is even an emergency with a parent who might fall down. And even as a 3-year-old, they can be responsible enough to know, do they dial 111? What is the most important thing there?
I think maybe if you live in a close neighbourhood and you know your neighbours very well, that would be a really good thing. So teach your kids, say, look, if something is wrong with mummy or daddy, or there's an accident or something, they can go next door and ask their next door neighbours for help. Maybe the next door neighbours know them so well that they'll actually come over. That's always a good thing. I would probably say first year at primary school is probably the best time to learn 111. Even if you can't convey the information, at least the emergency call centre will actually know that there is something going on at that address. So that's definitely worthwhile. And I guess the real big thing, like you said, with fire drills, for instance, is, and the Red Fire whānau do this so well, get out to your letterbox. And that's a drill that you can practice with your kids for everything. Tsunamis, earthquakes after you've stopped, covered, and dropped, you straight to the letterbox so that you know you're somewhere safe. Okay, now what are we going to do as a family? Let's everybody listen to mum because she's in charge, and away we go. So I guess there's a couple of things there, but I guess the big ones would be teaching your kids to go to the letterbox when there is something really big going on, maybe knowing your next door neighbours well enough to do something, and also ringing 111 if something isn't quite right. I did have a friend a wee while ago who was a magazine editor who asked me to give some advice on kids, and I said to her, well, you practice at home and see what happens. So she actually came into the room and sort of feigned sort of falling down in front of the TV as the two kids were watching there. She was lying there for 20 minutes until her 4-year-old said, I think mummy's just tired. She hasn't had a very good day. We'll just let her stay asleep. So, yeah, maybe not the best, yeah.
Yeah, they need a little bit of work on that one there.
Yeah, just a little bit, yeah.
One of the things with children, I mean, it was always been around, but is this bullying, and it's probably been accentuated a little bit through social media. However, bullying can start very young. And what are the things that parents should look for with their child, the way they're acting, to sort of pick up that perhaps their child has been bullied or going to school in an environment that's not particularly happy?
So it can, obviously, just like anything else, it can alter between child, but I guess look for a change in their behaviour. So that might actually mean that they're bullying somebody else. It does have some flow-on effects. Maybe they're becoming withdrawn. They're getting very worried or anxious about something as they go to sleep. You may find them not wanting to go to school. They might become quite sort of interested in something that's away from other people, so they're very, very isolated. And I guess those are the big things to keep an eye out for. It's just that sudden shift in behaviour or something isn't quite right. And as a parent, you'll know. And then maybe just get hold of either the childcare centre or the school and sort of say, hey, look, maybe this is going on. I don't know. They're being withdrawn. And I think, again, that's one of the things that lots and lots of parents forget. Your teacher sees your child probably about as much as you do at home every single day. So they get to know the kids very, very, very well. So my advice would always be make contact with your teacher, just have a friendly conversation and talk about what's going on with your child and in your child's life. It may be another family member. It could be somebody at school, but regardless, it's certainly worth having a talk about so that you can get maybe some storybooks on it, which I always find work really, really well in combating bullying, because there's lots of great stories on how to be nice to bullies or how to conquer bullying and the such like. And just make sure that your teacher's listening to you and then go from there. And that always seems to work. 9 times out of 10, it seems to work really, really well.
That's really good. We in one of our centres, we have puppets, and puppets have different personalities, and the puppet can whisper little things into the teacher's ear, but the children can relate to puppets. And I suppose it's a little bit like Bobby, although Bobby's real, of course, but how that you have that communication or that ability for a child to click, and it's not. It's something quite attractive, I think, for little children to be able to communicate through a puppet or a puppy.
Yep. Yeah, exactly right. And like, honestly, if we break it down, it was another one of the reasons why I was so keen for Brian and Bobby was I absolutely love Sesame Street, and the fact that that TV program was created by a child psychologist, it was in the Children's Television Workshop, and obviously the late great Jim Henson. They did so much research, and they're still doing research there with Sesame Workshop and the such like. It's a tried and true formula. We know that it works. So why would you change it in any way, shape, or form? And I think sometimes, like you said, with a puppet or a puppy, it just works because it's so simple. It's not something on a screen. You get a really good interaction, and everybody can actually see. Oh wow, great! Everybody loves Cookie Monster. We all know how it's going to end. He's one of my favourites. It's going to be utter chaos and mayhem. Grover's the same, but we still like watching. Elmo's exactly the same. Yeah, so why not have some fun with it? And I guess that's the big thing with all of these lessons is have some fun with it as well. When we filmed Brian and Bobby, it became very apparent that lots of safety messages were do this. And when we asked the kids, why should you do that? It's like, because my dad said, no other reason, no logic behind it. Now, I'm not saying dads are stupid. I can't say that is one, but if you actually give your kids the science behind the reason, then they become a lot more accepting of it.
Yes, no, I like that. I could talk for hours with you, but I know that you're got a lot to do out there, keeping the community safe. Just a couple of other things. Cyber safety is a big thing, clearly. Perhaps a little more when children get into primary school, but even in childcare, not actually in the childcare centres itself, but at home, children seem to be on devices at such an early age.
Mm-hmm.
Some key strategies that you could take as a parent to ensure that your child is not being exposed to things that are not good?
I guess my underlying message here is, and I do quite a few cyber safety talks, would be this. Rather than saying NO tech, it should be KNOW tech. So really as a parent, you need to know the tech. If you're, and this is obviously for teenagers, but if your child's on Instagram and you have no idea what a reel or a story is, then you actually need to take some interest in that. If your child's playing a video game and you're not interested in the characters, it's much like, and I gave the example yesterday at a meeting, I absolutely idolised the 1987 All Blacks. And I could give you the entire team for the Rugby World Cup final now, but I won't bore you. But if I'd gone to my father and said, hey, did you see that they've dropped Sean Fitzpatrick out and Andy Dalton's come back from injury, and he'd gone, oh, yeah, whatever, it probably would have been the last time that I would have spoken to my dad about rugby. And I think the same's true with computer games. Kids get very excited, be it Roblox, Minecraft, or whatever. And even now, my son plays Minecraft. I can't understand it, but I'm engaged with him. I can't. So okay, but I'm engaged. I know the difference between an Enderman and a creeper. I know how it works. I know how the engine works, and I know the objectives. Great, no problems at all.
So you've taken a little bit of interest in what they're doing as well, and that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not being totally shut off to what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other big thing is sometimes adults forget, or they just give children social media apps. TikTok is a great example. TikTok should not be in the hands of a 5, 6, or 7-year-old. It's when you actually look at the contractual agreement that you've agreed to and the terms and conditions. And again, it's that thing about knowing tech. Some of the information that TikTok is pulling down and returning back to its servers, and just using TikTok as an example, is probably going to be quite horrifying if parents actually knew. So you should be familiar with your settings. You should be familiar with what the social media app is actually doing, and also, is it age appropriate? Kids' YouTube is a great example. Kids use it and then they get fed up of it. It's a little bit boring. We'll go straight to YouTube. Well, that's fine, but just be aware of all those risks, and you still can put filters on stuff as well.
Bryan, I'm going to have to let you go. I thank you so much for your time. I'd love to talk more, and hopefully we can again in the future.
Oh, definitely, Alan. More than happy to. It's always good fun.
Really appreciate it. You're an inspiration. It's great. Keep doing what you're doing with Bobby. We may get to meet Bobby one day. So I really do thank you. Is there anything that our families can follow you on Instagram or Facebook?
Yep, so I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Threads, I think we're on X. It's all just Bryan and Bobby, BRYANANDBOBBY. Everything there from sort of my daily life to maybe some of the sports teams I follow as well.
Perfect. We'll make sure to follow you. Thank you again so much. Really appreciate it. Take care.
You too. Ka kite.
Ka kite.